All Three Beards Media podcasts originate from the Gravitate Co-working Studio, sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company.
This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Would you like to sample some of my nuts?
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Old Man Strength. I am your host, Chris Shipley. Aaron Wall, my normal co-host, is off today, so I brought in a pinch hitter, Dave Campbell. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me.
I'm happy to have you. Yeah, so we are super excited. This is a new season for us, so we thought we'd step up our game. And Chef Robert Irvine was kind enough to answer a tweet of mine, and that led to him being a guest on Old Man Strength, which seems pretty fitting for you, Chef.
Because I'm an old man?
Oh, no. I'm already off to a terrible start here, I see. That's
strength. Strength.
Strength.
No, just do what you like, man. I mean, just insult me. You can do anything, buddy. It's okay.
Okay, well then.
I'll go with you on that.
There we go.
Chris, was your tweet, Chef, will you be on the show? Is that what the was?
It was pretty much a begging of, would you mind coming on the show? Because I'm a big fan, which leads into the reason why. Chef, your shows are always so positive, and I think that's what I like. You're tough and you're stern, I think sometimes, but the positivity that you bring to your show is one of the main reasons why I'm such a huge fan, and what we try to do here at Three Beards Media. So.
Well, thank you. Look, stern is okay as long as you're fair. There is no need to chastise or demean people when you're trying to fix them. That is counterintuitive to what we try to do, right? I'm trying to fix a business, which turns into a family, which turns into, 1,000 other things, or a military or a firefighting house, or there's always something that revolves around people. And the more you demean them and feel small, the more you are counterproductive. So for me, over the years, I've learned to listen instead of the early days. If you look at the early days of Restaurant Impossible, it was me tell me your problem, be quiet, let me fix it. And after a couple of seasons, and look, we've done 360 plus episodes of that show. We're moving it to another, from Food Network to another place. I can't tell you what right now, but it's coming back. Slightly different, but it is what it is. I've learned to listen more than I talk, and that's a hard thing for me to say or do, in actual fact, because I'm not normally that person. I'm normally fix the problem, teach you, and then move on. So yes, I've learned a lot over many years in television, but also in life and business.
So we'll start here with, you grew up in Wiltshire, United Kingdom. Tell me, what was life like for a young Robert Irvine?
Oh, I'm gonna Wiltshire, England.
Okay.
United Kingdom is Wales, Scotland, and Ireland. I'm just make sure you're right.
That's okay. That's all right. See, you're already fixing me. I'm on board with this.
Sorry, what was the question?
You grew up in England, in Wiltshire. What was the young man of Robert Irvine like? What was growing up like?
I say it's interesting because I was very different. I was great at sports. I was very aggressive in sports, rugby and football, soccer. I was a terrible student. I loved history. I loved woodwork. I loved home economics. The rest of the classes I never went to. My mother, funnily enough, would do my homework, would clean my football boots, my soccer boots. I was not a good kid, but I wasn't shy, but I wasn't out there, as it were. Until one day, I got picked on a lot at school for I had big ears. I still have them, by the way, but I'm just a little older now. And one day I'm going home, I got ambushed by 4 kids, and then I lost my temper, ended up pummeling 4 kids, getting told off, but then I was okay because they attacked me. And I left home early. I was a Sea Cadet at the age of 11, which meant, or you call them Sea Scouts here. But I would go to naval bases, Marine bases, warships on the weekends. And I had a real great senior tutor who passed away about 10 years ago, but saw potential in me, and would send me on vacations, because my family is very poor. And by the way, we're still very poor. My mother, my dad passed away, but we grew up in a very, very poor family. So, and I give you poor, secondhand clothes, council home. My mother still lives 50 years in the same home I grew up in and still pays rent, by the way. 2 slices of bread, butter and sugar. That's how I grew up. And I've never lost that mentality. But as a young kid, I was, I didn't have the bikes and didn't have the nice stuff. And I had a lot of love, don't get me wrong. But I didn't have those, what I thought normal kids had. So I had to work harder to achieve things.
So how does one get from sugar sandwiches to chef?
I think a will and desire not to live through life like my parents did. My dad was in the Army. He was a great football player, soccer. I keep saying football, but soccer.
That's right. I played. I know what you're talking about.
And he was a bit of an alcoholic, to be honest with you. He was a painter and decorator when he came out of the Army, painted houses. And with that money, he would go and drink it down the toilet kind of thing. So great watching me play football, but one of them dads that lived through me and wanted to be as good as he. And I could never be that good. I thought I was pretty good, but I really wasn't. So we had, I've got a brother who was in the Army. At that point, I had 2 sisters. One is now in Australia. One is in Scotland. So it was an interesting time for me. My escapism was the Sea Cadets and home economics cooking. I got into cooking because there was 30 girls and me in a home economics class.
Proper motivation.
This is a good scene. I made my first quiche Lorraine, and for some unknown reason, I couldn't get over the fact that eggs, pastry, cheese, onion, and some bacon could make a meal and please everybody. It was fascinating to me, and it still is, by the way, because I feel that food is a way to everybody, no matter what race, religion, economic status. Food brings around a table and can change the world. So that was a big kind of enlightenment for me, although my dad was very disappointed when I joined home economics, because he thought that was for girls and for servants, right? In England, there was an upstairs, downstairs mentality. And when I joined the Navy, as opposed to the Army, like my brother and him, it was not good because, number one, I was not good at school. I took my naval maths and English test at 15 because my mother kind of caught me. I would say I would go to school dressed up. She'd go to work. I would double back and drink my dad's beer with all my buddies. And then one day she called the house. I answered the phone like an idiot. And she kind of.
It's always how we get caught, isn't it?
It was the demise of Robert Irvine, and marched me straight down to the recruitment office. I took the English maths test. I got 5.5, which is the lowest in both. It was 1 with the highest, 5 with the lowest. And they said to me, well, Sonny, good news and bad news. You're in the Majesty's Royal Navy and you're going to be a cook. And here I am at 58 years old, still cooking.
So because you had taken the home economics classes, did that excite you then to be that you were going to be a cook, or did it kind of catch you by surprise?
No, absolutely. Look, I knew I wasn't the smartest kid on the block. But there's one thing I had a knack for was cooking. I loved it. It was, for me, a freeing piece. I would go home and I would cook dinner. My mother would work, my father would work, and then go drinking, and I would cook dinner. Most of which worked, some of which didn't. I didn't set the house on fire, which was lucky. But yeah, I enjoyed it, and I still enjoy it.
How long did you cook in the Navy?
How long?
How long? Yeah.
1981 all the way through. I did just under 16, 17 years of total active duty and reserve. I loved it. The camaraderie in the military is something very special. And I don't think you really understand it until you're in it. And those that were in it and come out to continue in public service, firefighters, police officers, etc. And we can say doctors, nurses, teachers, EMTs, because there's that breadth of uniform. I think they would tell you the same. I don't care that I wasn't in the U.S. military. I mean, I spent 345 days a year on the road for the last 11 years, and 150 of those just with the military. So I still get, goosebumps, and I still get excited. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Poland, you name it. We just came off the Eisenhower. So it's a thing innate in me, teams.
So what would you say is a lesson that you learned from that time, whether it was in the Navy or growing up, that's still with you today that you stay true to?
Well, I think it's leadership, right? Empathetic leadership. I mean, I wrote a book called Overcoming Impossible, and that's my number one, is understanding the people that work with you. And I think the Navy, in that case, Navy and Marines for me, taught me the leadership piece. And then as you go through life, it's friendships and getting to know people. But when you come out of that environment where people have to work with you and they have to do as they're told, because it's that brigade system, there's a chief and then there's there. It's very different, because when I first came out the Navy, I expected people to be there 15 minutes early to do the job without supervision. And that was a rude awakening for me. So I think that has stayed with me all my life. We run 11 companies, 6,000 employees, and I use that leadership knowledge and skill that I learned in the military many years ago to run those companies. I don't hold you by the hand. I give you, the military is really interesting because it gives you a mission and it gives you an end point. This is what we want to achieve. Now, how we get there are certain times where you follow a footstep. Other times you've got to be thinking on your feet and get it done yourself. And I feel that's the way I run my companies. I don't give time off. You pick the time off. I don't tell you how long. You tell me. All I ask is, you want 4 weeks off, that your work is covered by somebody else, and vice versa. I don't give hours in the day. If I get a call at 2:00 in the morning from Korea, you'll get in a call at 2 minutes past 2, and you better answer the phone. You got 15 minutes to answer the phone. Either way, that's my rules. And you can either live with those rules or you can't. And it's interesting for me because for 16 years, my team has only lost 3 employees that we chose to lose because they couldn't connect with the team.
Wow.
So very loyal. And that's a military thing, right?
Yeah. It's funny that you said about your expectations, because it's been a topic of conversation that I've had in this last year with some things that I've been working through therapy, actually. And I've said to myself, I have a hard time having expectations. And when other people don't meet those expectations, I struggle with that. So how do you, when you have such high expectations and people don't meet those, how do you battle that and understand that other people do things a different way?
I would reverse your thinking, number one, because there is only one Chris, there's only one Robert, there's only one Dave. We can't replicate what we think we want. You have to give a clear direction and vision and an outcome that you require. How they get there is for them to understand that. They have to bring you the answer to that to be able to achieve. Then everybody's going to go straight line like you or I would. They go like this and up and down. And you have to accept that because God made us all different, unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at that, right? There are leaders and there are followers. And some people are not good leaders and are meant to be the followers that take direction. But here's what I would say. In every show that I've ever done, in every life moment I've ever had, I teach people the way to do things, just like cooking a dish. A pinch of salt to me is 1 ounce, because I know I measure it literally with 3 fingers. A pinch of salt to somebody else is way different. And I proved this a couple of weeks ago on an army base. So you have to really use the individual, get to know them. And that's why I was talking about empathetic leadership. You have to know the people that you're dealing with, and the intelligence level and the comprehension level of what you want. Not everybody's the same. And if you go through it and they fail, don't be upset with it. Say, okay, let's work this back. Where did it go wrong? And then you go back and you do it again. You get 3 chances, right? 3 chances. And then there's a problem. But not until you give them 3 chances. And that may take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Or they may suddenly, but you have to dissect that expectation and why they didn't meet it. Either your direction wasn't clear enough, or mine, or Dave's, or they didn't catch it and grasp and run with it. But they should have already give you a plan of action to be able to get from point A to point Z. Now I do point Z to point A. That's exactly what I do in everything I do. There's the required outcome. Now, how do I backtrack to get to that required outcome? Not the other way. It doesn't work that way. You know, we don't plan wars from the beginning. They already happen and we have to react to them. Here's the end goal. Let's reverse back and stage it the other way.
Got it. Makes sense. Drew's had 21 years of service in the armed services. So he wanted to make sure that you knew he appreciated your military tours as well. So
Drew, thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate your service too. Don't know what branch, but
Army. He's
Army.
stationed in Maryland right now. So
well, I'm actually about to hand over a new dining facility in Fort Jackson. So yeah, I work a lot with the Army. General George, the Chief of the Army, and Sergeant Major Weimer, Sergeant Major of the Army. I'm in the middle of a modernization program with them right now.
Chef, I know that on your chef's jacket you have an American flag symbol. Not today, but often. Do you have dual citizenship?
I am a United States citizen, have been for 16 years. I actually could have had a dual citizenship. My wife does, Canadian and American. My daughters have British and American. I chose to give up my citizenship of England to be totally American. And I've been that for 16 years. I work, I pay taxes, I employ a lot of people. I want to make votes like everybody else. So I wanted to make the decision, and it was my decision not to pay taxes in 2 countries with the way I work. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of look, I'm the guy that stands in a football game and cries when the national anthem comes on. I'm very emotional with that. Even when Rule Britannia still comes on, because I've stood there next to the royal family for years doing that.
I think that's true that it's true that a lot of us take our own citizenship, Americans take our citizenship for granted. And to see it through someone who has chosen to become a citizen of this country, I think is very revealing.
You know, it's not everything is great in any place in the world. I think America is struggling at the moment with a lot of issues, dividing and the country and whatnot. I hope that somebody, whichever side that is, and look, I serve the President of the United States, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, the seal is what I serve and have done since 1996. Inside the White House, traveling with the presidents and doing all those kind of things. So look, so all I care about is that we as people take care of each other.
Absolutely.
Right? And you can have a different opinion than me. Allow me to express my opinion. Let me allow you to express yours. And let's allow each other to disagree with each other without violence or hatred. I think there's too much of that.
Amen.
Yeah, absolutely. So you let's find a little funny story there. So you served many presidents. What's probably the funnest or the funniest story you have of doing that?
I think George Bush, 43. I think we were ready to do a dinner with him in the White House. And I said, let me actually it was the lunch. No, it was the dinner. Let me just pop up to the restroom outside of the wardroom. So the wardroom, there's this old office, then there's the wardroom, and then there's the East Wing where he lives. And I remember going to the bathroom, and it's literally up 4 steps across the hall kind of thing, right? And I go in there like, oh, let me just go there before we do this dinner. You know, we got 5-10 minutes. Well, as I walk in there, there's nobody in there. I washing my hands. Actually, I was taking a pee, to tell the truth. And the door swings open, Secret Service walk in, and they said, oh, it's only the chef. And in comes the President of the United States. Now I can't move. So 2 seconds after that, we say hi. I look forward, you know, in comes the Vice President, Dick Cheney. So I'm in between the two of them. They're talking. Now I can't move again. I'm just looking forward straight, and eventually they both wash their hands. Now I can't move until they've left protocol. And then as the president's George Bush is washing his hands, what are you having for dinner, chef? And I just, I'll be in to talk to you shortly, you know. It was one of my funniest moments because you got 2 of the most powerful men in the world either side of you, and you can't move, and you can't look left, and you can't look right because A, you're in the bathroom, but B, you're you know, it's protocol. Thing. Yeah. So
you wanted to say, how's it hanging, fellas?
yeah. But I think there's lots of, look, I would not want that job. I don't care which president you are. I would not want that job for love of money. And it's not money that they do it for sure, because it's only $400,000 a year. And that only went up a couple of years ago from $200,000. So it's not money, right? But the way the state of the world is, my God, that was a funny story.
And you know, you actually worked for Donald Trump at one of his restaurants, hotels.
4 years. I used to run his Trump Taj Mahal.
Correct. How was that? What was that like?
For me, it was great. Look, here's, and I'll tell you what I tell everybody else. For me, I did my job every day, 18 hours a day, to be honest with you. And I went in there straight from Jamaica. I was the executive chef in Jamaica. And I left there after a year and 1 day. I flew, interviewed with Trump, got the job as executive sous chef. And I said, you know, if 1 year I'm not the executive chef, I'm out. And I was making $53,000 a year, I think it was. From Jamaica, 33, then to 53, and I was living the life. You know, I brought my daughter, who was just born, Annalise, who's now 24. And I worked solidly 18 hours a day, 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week, depending on what was happening at the White House. And I loved it. I loved to thrive. I was going back to that I was the young executive chef in Atlantic City. There was, I think, 8 casinos at the time. That went up to 11 eventually. But we were the biggest and baddest. And I was the number 2 guy. And I changed not only, I think we fired 350 cooks in my first 4 months. So I went in undercover. So I would go in at 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. and just roam the halls, listen to what was going on, write notes, you know, all these kind of things. Then find out what was going on, then put a uniform on, and I went in and cleaned house. Then we went from those, hired great chefs, and I remember we had 36 chefs, corporate, well, called, you know, house chefs, room chefs, whatever you want to call them. The casino was doing $784 million a year.
Wow.
Casino floor, and $15 million on food and beverage. And my first year, we went from $15 million to $84 million.
Wow.
I had a lot of death threats. I couldn't have any information in the system, personal information, because I had a few death threats. But yeah, it was kind of an interesting time.
Don't really expect that as a chef, do you?
Well, look, you got to understand, Atlantic City in 1996, 1997 was was full of, you'd back up a truck of crab legs, Alaskan king crab, and the next minute the whole truck was gone. So, I mean, it was that kind of place at that time.
Wasn't exactly a corporate structure, is what you're saying.
Well, let's put it this way. There were some interesting people that lived there and worked there. So, I had a great time. I learned so much from coming from a small hotel to running a major, we had 1,000 people in food and beverage at that point. And I had the culinary piece. And sure enough, a year later, I was the executive chef. I went from, 50 something to 125. Then I bought futures and I did a lot of stuff that wasn't being done at that time because I was always looking for, how do I make more money? And if I can't make it on the guests, I've got to make it on the product somehow. And that's the purchasing, right? So we look at the deals and look, there was so much corruption in them days. It wasn't even funny. There was people taking backhanders and all those kind of things that happen in the real world. And I wasn't used to it, but I certainly got used to it fast.
So I was going to take a break, but it spurred a question I have because I actually start a brand new job tomorrow in running my own department, which I've never done before. You went from a small hotel to one of Trump's hotels.
Yeah.
How did you tackle your confidence level of going, okay, this is a huge deal. How am I going to do this?
You'll laugh because you can't do this. What job are you doing, by the way? I don't know what you're doing.
I'll be running a marketing department for a property management company.
Well, I went I got all the chefs together on day one. When I put a uniform on, I walked in. I said, my name is Robert Irvine. If you don't do your beep, 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 beep job, I will fire you. You can't do that nowadays, right? And the reason I did that is because there's a lot of dead weight. There's a lot of people that were just hanging on, getting a paycheck. And by the way, think about this. In a casino of over 5,000 employees, I had a coffee shop that had 60-something employees in it, and I would go down to try and find 25 of those on any one shift. And, well, they swiped the card in, the ID card, but they weren't even in the building. It was 3 doors down at a different casino, working a different shift and paying paycheck. That's how bad it was. I'm not kidding you. So for me, I had to lay down the law. And I when I put on a uniform, I had a very unique look. So everybody else wore a chef's hat that was round. I had a European one with a V. And when I walked down the hallways, it was like cockroaches, because I spent 18 hours a day on the property. I let everybody know that I wasn't going home. You weren't doing things behind my back. And these were my expectations. Every week I had a meeting. I listened to what they were saying. I even put in a complaint line, a president's hotline you can call and complain. It broke in the first 40 minutes, by the way. And every day the president would say to me, hey, congratulations, you broke it in 40 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. But some of the calls were legitimately good calls. Like, why can't we do this? And I would look. And if it was possible, we'd change it. And if it wasn't, I couldn't, right? So I think you set the expectations the minute you go in there. You tell them you don't know everything, but what you don't know, you'll learn or you'll ask. I think vulnerability is always good. Strength first until you're in, and then share a small vulnerability to show that you are human and you make mistakes. Because otherwise, what it's like? It's like when a general manager of a football team comes in. They normally bring in their own team. And that's what I do everywhere I go. My team comes in. You're not getting fired, but I'm bringing my team in just so you know to make sure that we're all on the same page. And I think you've got to earn the trust and the respect through your actions and your words. But remember, actions speak louder than words.
Right.
But I go back to the same thing, the empathetic leadership. You've got to know every person that works with you and understand that Jennifer may have an autistic son and she comes to work and she's in a bad mood because her son's playing up and she had no sleep. Or, Andrew's got an 80-year-old dad who fell down the stairs last night. You really got to get into the minds and understand the people. And once you do that and you show caring, the sky's the limit. Once they trust you, they know you care, and you set out the clear expectations and you hold them accountable. I think that's, and I write that in my book, the leadership is always number one. Trust egos, yours and theirs, and the mindset that together as a team, you can achieve anything if you put your minds to it and work with each other well.
Great. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to get a word from our sponsors, Revelton Distilling Company and Gravitate Co-working. And then, Chef, when we come back, we'll talk about your intro into Food Network and Restaurant Impossible.
Cool.
Why take the best corn in the world and make it into fuel when you could make it into whiskey? That's the question that launched Revelton, Iowa's most visible and fastest growing distillery. Owners Rob and Christy Taylor embrace the grain-to-glass philosophy, sourcing ingredients locally and overseeing on-premises production and bottling at their facility in Osceola. One sip and you'll agree that Revelton's handcrafted whiskeys, gins, and vodkas are the best you've ever tasted. And with the launch of their rye whiskey, made with 100% Iowa-grown rye and corn, and their new bourbon coming soon, there's more Revelton to love than ever. Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com. The great thing about working from home is working from home. The worst thing is working from home, especially for face-to-face collaborations with customers and coworkers. And let's face it, coffee shop meetings are neither private nor professional. So skip the trip to Starbs and investigate Gravitate Co-working Space. For more than 10 years, Gravitate has provided large and small office and conference spaces perfect for hosting meetings, workshops, or other events, as well as private phone booths for confidential conversations. Plus, all spaces include secure fiber internet, free coffee, and access to a kitchenette. All you need is your laptop. Gravitate does the rest. And renting space at Gravitate is surprisingly affordable. An hour of office space costs about the same as venti caramel macchiatos and breakfast sandwiches for two. Daily and monthly rates are also available with no long-term commitment. Learn more at gravitatecoworking.com. That's gravitatecoworking.com.
All right, and we are super thankful of our sponsors, Revelton Distilling Company and Gravitate Co-working. Chef, so you're working at the Trump Taj Mahal. At some point, there's some kind of an opportunity to Food Network. How does that work? How did that work?
Well, it's interesting because I had a company that I started whilst I was working at Trump, spices and meats and other things. So I was doing that, but I was doing a food show in New Jersey. Paula Deen was the headliner at that time. I was going to be the warm-up guy. So sure enough, somebody had contacted me. I'm going to get it right now. It was the account manager for Rocco DiSpirito, who was then at that time, I think, was on NBC's The Restaurant, whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And he knew Mark Summers from Double Dare. So I said, oh, well, why don't you get Mark Summers to come up to the Armory in New Jersey? I'm going to do this thing and, see if I was already doing local television. Every Sunday night, I had a little show on a local NBC station. Got about 3,000 emails a week and questions and answered the questions on that show, a little cooking kind of thing. So I was used to doing television, but didn't know if I had what it took to go on a network or on a cable show. So anyway, I reached out to him through this guy. He showed up. He said, yeah, I'm going to come to the Armory. Well, he didn't show up on time. I was in the middle of doing what I do. And it was funny because the easiest way to hold an audience is to give something away, right? And I had a cheesecake company at that point, and I was giving cheesecakes away. So the place was packed with a couple of thousand people. And I was demoing some stuff with my titanium knives. I had a lot of stuff going on at that point. And at the end of it, I was signing, taking pictures, giving out cheesecakes. And he came over to me and I'm like, oh, you missed it. He said, no, I was stood at the back watching. And I said, oh, what do you think? He says, well, this is exactly Mark Summers. You've got something. I said, well, what is that? What is that? He says, I don't know. And I said, oh, okay. He said, what I want you to do is go home, write down, episode ideas for TV shows, and I'm like, oh, okay, fine. So I did. And every time I would send him 10 or 15, he would send them back, no. And in the end, I thought, oh, he's full of crap. He's not going to do anything. So I said, all right, this is the last one I'm sending you. And it was based on a year of my life, my previous year, of everything I did with the military, aircraft carriers, the White House, all the things I did. And he wrote back and said, that's it. That's the show. And I said, really? And that was the show that came. It was actually originally called Fit for a King. That was the pilot name. It then turned into Dinner Impossible, which did 180 something episodes where they would pit me against no food, no equipment, and a timeline to fix it. And one of 180 episodes was feeding 6,000 people. Getting to the governor, it was Ed Rendell, I'll never forget it, his residence in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania at 6 p.m. at night in the torrential rain, him giving me the mission, which was to feed 6,000 people at his inaugural ball the next day, 6 o'clock. But I had to move it 3 miles from his residence, and you could only cook the food till 9 o'clock. Well, I had no food. It was 6 o'clock. Where am I going to get food? There was one Chinese store open in the whole of Pennsylvania at that time. I called, true story, and I called a friend of mine from Cisco Food Service, said, look, dude, I got a job for you and you can't say no. And literally 11 o'clock at night, they were opening up a warehouse, getting my stuff together to feed 6,000 people. And it was based on apples, mushrooms, and venison, which are 3 unique ingredients to Pennsylvania. And we started at 6 in the morning, and at 3 o'clock in my brain, I knew everything was hors d'oeuvres, by the way, all hors d'oeuvres. So that makes it even worse. And I knew at 3 o'clock I had to move to be able to set up this. It was a farm show. I had to set up this station to feed 1,000 people at 6 p.m., which were government officials. And then at 8 p.m., the other 5,000 people would walk through the door all together. And I'm like, and Mark Summers pushed my buttons every minute of that day. End up saying, well, how am I going to move all this food? And I'm like, and I literally saw a guy walk in to get a cup of coffee, and he had a Secret Service badge on or pin on. I'm like, I need you. What do you do? He said, well, I'm the protection for the governor, whatever. I said, good, come with me. So he came with me. I went in the middle of the high street outside, and this is gospel truth. Outside the gates of the governor's mansion is a double-laned road. I went out and I just stuck my hand up in front of a truck. It stopped. I said, are you empty? And he said, yep, I'm going back. I said, get me your boss on the phone right now. And this guy had a badge and everything. And so he's like, oh, it's important. Boss, he gave me the truck for 3 hours. We backed the truck up into the driveway. With a pull-out ramp, we loaded the stuff up. It was like it was yesterday. And I drank about 16 Red Bulls, quad latte. We got up there. We just managed to get the first 1,000 done. Disheveled is an understatement. They opened the doors, and we were still panicking, putting the finishing touches on the other 5,000 pieces, but 5,000 times 12 hors d'oeuvres, not just 5,000.
Yeah.
And I'm going to kid you not. You should find it, because when you see it, it's as real as you see it. And we did it. And Mark Summers literally threw his thing down. He's like, I don't believe you. You could actually do it. You did it, That was my entry to Mark Summers. And we've been together, 15 years. He's not doing the show now because he's got his own one-man show that started in New York City on February the 14th, which is kind of cool for him. The Life and Slimes of Mark Summers. Bless him. I'm giving him a plug because he's a dear friend. So if you need tickets, go to lifeandslimes.com and get tickets. It's just, it's hilarious. The guy is hilarious. And every time I would get close to finishing, he would always throw in something more. And then when we finished that series, he's like, what do you want to do next? And that's how Restaurant Impossible came up. because I was getting thousands of emails from people just saying, how do I fix this? How do I fix this? How do I fix this? I'm like, well, that's a show. I don't know what it looks like, but here's a show. So we sold it to Food Network, and it was a 22-minute show to start with. Well, 48 hours to fix a restaurant, but not knowing anything about it until you walk in. And that's, again, on my children's life. I didn't know anything. You tell me the problem. I'd look around, see what it needed fixing. And that's how the show evolved and to what it was until we finished it last year, November, on Food Network. A new show will come out on Paramount very soon. But I mean, we did 350, 60, something like that episodes. And what's really telling about that show is the success rate, not through COVID, because I couldn't help COVID.
Right.
But during COVID, I reached out to the head of Food Network and said, we should be on the road. And they said, well, how are you going to do that? I said, well, give us buses, tour buses. So we had 4 buses, 6 people, a couple of trucks, and we did 60 episodes of TV.
Wow. That was going to be my question, is because, the Extreme Home Makeover show from back in the day where they would build a house in 24 hours or over a weekend or whatever. Real. And you just go, how can they possibly do that? And what's that actually like? But that's what I'm curious how it's. I know. Did it with
Ty Pennington, right? So the problem with that show is a great concept, but we give you the house that we built in a week, by the way, that had to send back 60 people 2 weeks later to fix it, right? Because it wasn't really done. And then we sell it to you for $1. And then 2 years later, the taxes, I mean, we would put a 6,600 square foot next to a 500 square foot home. And then the taxes. So if you look and you really do investigation, you'll see that none of them houses are still with the same people.
Right.
And I do woodworking and home improvement, and I go, I know you're supposed to wait 24 hours between coats of mud on the drywall. How do they do a whole
They were doing 2 of them a week.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I would open, fly, do another one, and come back and close. It was, I did the South Carolina one, which was a special operations guy that got it. But, Restaurant Impossible, and I'm telling you, you can read online, you can read the people that were there. So we could only do that show because we had 50 to 100 volunteers.
Yeah.
That would lift and shift. And then COVID stopped that. So we had only our crew and our production people. Well, if you think me, a chef, 1 designer, 6 builders, that's it. Well, when you take a 1,500 square foot, 2,000 square foot restaurant to empty it alone, right? And that was real time. Going at 8 o'clock in the morning, my goal in my brain was to get all the information and start to plan. All I had was a square footage. Well, I didn't. The designer had the square footage of the building or the restaurant. That's all they had. And they wouldn't do anything. Our trucks carried lumber, they carried piping, they carried, all those kind of things. And I wouldn't know what I'm going to do. So I walk in the door and say, yeah, we're going to take that wall out. We're going to do this. It's not a load-bearing wall. I can do it. And that was in 48 hours. And I mean in 48 hours. And what I loved about the volunteers is I was no different than I am to you now, except more aggressive, I suppose, right? Because I had 48 hours to get it done. And people, just like you say, assertive. People say to me, oh, you're mean, you're tough. I'm like, look, let me give you a scenario. They losing $350,000 a year. I've got 48 hours to fix it. What would you do? Oh, please, Dave, can you take your headphones? Right? So they're real. And I got to tell you, some of the successes, the biggest debt was $1.1 million in debt, off-street cafe in Cerritos, California, who is still running now, doing amazing. The place, I was there probably 4 months ago. The place looks like I left it yesterday, even better, because they kept up putting money into it, changing the chairs, it's unbelievable. One in New Hampshire, the covered bridge. You won't remember this, but husband and wife divorced 10 years, $350,000 in debt. Imagine this beautiful restaurant on a river with a covered bridge, which was actually closed up.
Actually, I do remember that episode. Yes.
But let me tell you, and he was the mean, aggressive kind of guy. And I made him on date. I said, made one of them, not him. He just the one that caved. One of them give in to the other one, sign over the $350,000 in debt. She took it. And she said, I don't know how to do this. I'm like, I'm going to be with you every step of the way. They just hit $3 million a year.
Wow.
Right. And I did that 6 years ago, and a revisit. And she's one of my closest friends to date, Jen. So those that listen have gone on to do amazing things. I was just in Michigan, where the Jamaican restaurant, and they are thriving. That was 4 years ago. So 93% success rate in the last 3 years of running that show shows that when people listen and given direction and etc., they can do it. And those that don't fail.
What's the most important thing that a restaurant has to get right? Is it service? Is it food? Is it price? I know you talk about people a lot in the show,
I think it's all of them, right? You've got to be price competitive. You've got to be unique in the food style. You can't be, again, all the things that I look at when I walk in is, where is it? Who's leading it? The quality of the cooks in the kitchen, the quality of the servers, the equipment in the kitchen, and what does the cost in the area bear? So I can get away with an $11 burger here, but I could get away with a $15 burger over here. And what's my competitiveness around? And I do that literally while I'm there. I don't make the menu till I say, okay, this is the quality of the staff in a 3-step process. We can put this menu out. And there's nothing like it around. So I think it's the equipment, the price, the style of the food. Look, I open with a menu, and I say, okay, here's 10 items on a menu. Watch the first week, what sells and what doesn't. Adjust slightly, and call me before you adjust so I can see what you're adjusting. So every restaurant I've ever done to this date, as we're on this, I speak to. Continually.
Wow.
Still to this day. And we started a show 15 years ago. So for me, I made lifelong friends. I've also made some enemies along the way too. But they're the people that didn't listen because ego, again, that ego thing got in the way. And they're like, no, we know our customers better than you do. I'm like, okay.
That's why you were doing so well.
Right. Yeah.
Help.
There's one I remember one in Ohio. And it was right on the corner of two of the busiest merging streets in Ohio. And in his window, when I got there, it said, all you can eat steak for $3. I walked in there.
I wouldn't want to eat that much.
What are you paying for a steak? $4.75. Well, why is all you can eat for $3? Anyway, so I left. I did it. My father was alive then. That tells you it was 9 years ago. So 3 weeks later, I get a tweet on my social media, on my little phone here, and it says, sorry, Robert Irvine, the steaks are back. And I said, sorry, you know what? Your name, I forgot his name. Sorry, Frank, I'll see you in bankruptcy. And literally 2 months later, he went bankrupt.
Wow.
Because he didn't listen.
Right.
Somebody got this beautiful restaurant, and I mean beautiful restaurant, for free.
I went back. I watched your show quite a bit. My wife and I watched it quite a bit. We went back and watched the very first episode just to get an idea of, and I'm sure you probably remember, but
I do.
The designer wanted to repaint the chairs, and I remember stopping and looking at my wife and saying, he's going to lose his fucking mind. Like and when the paint came off on that dude's pants, I was like, oh my God, here it comes.
Woman's lilac dress. She looked like a zebra when she got up. Because it was number one, too cold. Number one, they used an oil-based paint. And if you remember, I said, I'm going to get banquet chairs because they're never going to dry.
Yes.
And I used half banquet chairs. I remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, my God. It was so great.
It's funny. That was a terrible show. It was our first episode. But what I got from that was Tom.
Yeah.
Because him and the designers that's how I got Tom, through the designers.
Yeah.
And they're apparently great designers in another world, but not in my world, right?
No.
In this, it is. Hey,
no, I don't imagine that guy lasted very long.
And Tom's been with me 16 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did my restaurants in South Carolina. He did my restaurants inside the Pentagon. I did my Vegas,
So this is how diverse you are. When I was talking to a bunch of my friends that I was going to have you on, my friend Dave Larson was like, "Oh my God, I love his Fit Crunch bars." And he's like, and we're talking, and pretty soon he goes, "Wait, he's on TV?" And I was like, "Yeah, you don't know that he's actually a host on a TV show?" And he's like, "No, I thought he was just famous for his Fit bars." So Dave wants to know what's coming up. Should we be to look out for, and how can it possibly be better than the strawberry strudel bars?
Dave Larson, let me tell you. So I literally have just finished. We have now a wafer bar on Amazon, and it's a peanut butter. But I've just finished a chocolate mint, a vanilla, and a strawberry wafer bar that will be coming in the next couple of months. But they start in Sam's Club, 7-Eleven, all in February. I just finished ready to drink protein drinks. Because I drink them every day. We have powder already, but I made one that will be going in some point in the next couple of months. We've done trail mix, chocolate covered nuts with protein. We've got so many things in the pipeline and hopper, but like everything, we don't put everything out at once. But the wafers are the thing at the moment, because I wish I'd have done it 10 years. The company's 10 years old 4 weeks ago. And we now have, 2 big plants in Pitt. So I'm a very local guy, even though I live in Florida, or I spend 11 days a year here. Most of my work is done around Pennsylvania. So my distilleries in Pennsylvania, my protein bars, two facilities are in Pittsburgh. So I tend to stay in the area because I like the people. I like the vicinity to major roadways, etc. Our production office is in Philadelphia, so it's kind of that area for me. And I got to tell you, look, people are going to hate when I say this, but Josh Shapiro, the governor there, I watched him take off his jacket when I said to him, "Hey, look, I need to feed some veterans here." No publicity stunt. Took off his jacket, said, "Hey, use this house and I'm going to help you." I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat. I don't care. This guy stood up when he wanted to stand up. So I love that he's doing this, helping people that want to do business, get their business license quicker, do great things. And Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania as a whole are doing that. And I like anywhere that's going to give a small guy. And remember, I told you where I come from. Yes, and now I'm on TV and I've got these things, but you have to get there, right? You have to start somewhere. So, I mean, that's why I love Pennsylvania. We do protein bars, we do food, we do liquor, we do clothing for the military. There's so much we do. AI, robotics, we do self-ordering systems. I advise on Fortune 500 companies' systems. People say, what makes you so different? I cook on TV. The only time I really cook is for our military men and women, our first responders. When I go on trips, that's my focus. But I don't cook that much. I more manage the businesses that we have and the direction that we go, and help other people go in those directions.
So you're married to Gail Kim, a former professional wrestler.
Yeah.
Do you guys cook at home? Do you go out to eat? And do you cook at home, or does she, or who?
Gail is here. She was away all last couple of days, but she's here. She just made me a homemade soup of cannellini beans and spinach. It was amazing. She does most of the cooking here. She doesn't wrestle anymore, but she helps run what was is now back to TNA, but it was another name at some point. Just went back to TNA a couple of weeks ago. So she's in a supervisory role of talent management and all that stuff now. And helping with matches and doing what she does. She's busier now than I've ever seen her. And we've been married, or we've been together 15 years. This is the busiest I've ever seen her.
Well, that my 2 boys are huge wrestling fans. And when I said you were coming on, we were like, "Oh, he's married to Gail Kim." So yeah. That's your claim to fame, apparently. So
when she goes to events, everybody says, "Where's Robert?" When I go to an event, they will say, "Where's Gail?" So sure. we were just in Vegas, obviously, Super Bowl, and crazy. We didn't stay for the game. We left the morning of Saturday, but there for media and all the stuff that we had to do before. And she got mobbed there. It's just we live in a circus world, and it's funny.
Yeah.
No other female could put up with my work, and I don't think any other male could put up with her, because the way we work. She's on the phone now. She's been on the phone since 8 o'clock this morning, right? I'm the same way, and you need to be in that bubble. What I love about her the most, yes, she's an amazing wrestler. I was not into wrestling until I met her on my TV show, Dinner Impossible, where you saw where we met, and we got married, and it was all on television. But what I love about her is she's self-motivated. She's better than any man. She's like, and I don't mean in the physical sense either. She hit me once, and she never hit me again because it hurt.
Because she likes to wrestle, not hit.
Yeah, she's tough. She's tough.
I got to admit, just listen to your schedule, Chef. I'm exhausted just listening to talk about keeping in touch with all the restaurants and all the stuff you do for the military and the TV shows. And my gosh, just listening to that, I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
But I'm lucky because I have a great team of people that we've assembled. Look, it started with me, then went to me and Justin, then it went to me and Justin and Ryan, and here we are, now a full gambit of different companies with different presidents, CEOs that report up. It's kind of, and it never stops because opportunities come every day, and it's how do you negate as much as possible what the risk is to do those businesses or not do those businesses, or does it fit into your alignment of who you stand for? For me, it's health, mental health, well-being, physical and mental, some luxurious foods, but mainly healthy foods, liquor, because it goes with food, the clothing, workout clothing, all that stuff. Everything revolves around the food for me. And that's how I pick what we do and who we partner with.
Well, and you have time to respond to tweets because that's how you connected with me, and I appreciate it. And I will tell you, you were the first early on in my Twitter time. I tweeted at you one time and asked you a question about how much food to make for some event I had, and you answered me, and I was like, I can't believe he just answered me. So for you to interact with your fans on there with your busy schedule is something to be very commendable about.
The only social media platform I do is Twitter, and you'll know it's me because there's no punctuation. It's 140 words thrown together.
Yeah, well, you and me both.
But it's funny because people then get on there and they say, "Oh, we're pissed off that you don't punctuate." And I said, "Look, don't follow me."
Right.
Look, I have no bad. This is the way I work. This is what I do. I'm not that intelligent. I'm not that stupid either. But I answer every tweet, and I mean every tweet, because we started when we did Restaurant Impossible. I started doing a live tweet from no matter where I was. Literally, Restaurant Impossible would be on, and I would be doing a TV show with Dana Delaney or John Carroll Lynch or Paula Abdul at that time, and I would be tweeting while I'm filming this show, watching our show that was on silent while we're doing this show. And I have never stopped that. So our online presence on social media, I mean, I always do the Twitter, but I have guys my team that do TikTok and all that other stuff. I'm too old for that. Facebook and whatever. But I make sure that I'm in contact with, if somebody's hurting out there, and if you follow my Twitter, you'll see what I respond to, which is everyone.
You do.
If you're a service member, I put them in touch with our foundation to help them. I give through COVID, which is I'm proud of. Every company we own did something in COVID. We give away $500 gift certificates to get food for people. We give away protein bars to doctors, nurses, first responders, and National Guard and reservists. We give out sanitizer. We were the first distillery in this country to make hand sanitizer. It wasn't my idea. It was one of my guys said, "Hey, we should do this." I said, "Great, do it." We ended up making sanitizers for Merck, which we still do, by the way. But we gave it away. If you had a bottle or a jar or something, you come up, we'd fill it, off you go at the distillery. So, again, I go back to that, using the platform for the good of other people, not just money. And people say to me, "Well, you have lots of money." Oh, do I? Look what I give away. Yeah. I mean that most sincerely. Our foundation, which is basically me at the moment, I give away more money than I keep. And I'm okay with that. I go to bed at night knowing that. So in Pittsburgh, again, 3 weeks ago, a detective was shot. Within 2 hours of that, we were on the phone making sure his family were good and taken care of,
Wow.
And that's what for me is this platform that you're all on and I'm on is dedicated to helping people and giving insights and help to questions. I have 1,000 questions a day on social media. What do I do here? What do I do there? I either answer it and say, oh, look, this is what you do, or I'm going to send somebody to talk to you, or your book, or I'm going to, some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and that's we try to do that here too on a small scale. We're going to jump in real quick. I'm going to be cognizant of your time, of a couple of fun questions for you, and then we'll go ahead and get you on your way. But Dave's going to ask our Wintrust Mortgage question of the pod. We'll play an ad, and then you can come back and answer the question.
All right, Chef. So the Wintrust Mortgage question. You're kidnapped. You have one dish to make to convince the kidnappers to let you go. What do you make and why? That's the question. We'll take the break, and then you can answer.
Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
All right. You're kidnapped, Chef. One dish to make to convince kidnappers to let you go. I knew you wouldn't need the break even to figure this out. You are quick with answers. What dish do you make to let the kidnappers let you go, and why?
All right. I'm going to give you what my real thought process, right?
All right.
Ethnicity. I look at the people, see who they are, see how they work, see where they live, and then I decide what the dish is. But if anybody else, if it was my final meal, it would be roast chicken and mashed potatoes.
Ooh.
Right? That's it. Simple, done. Creamy roast. It's almost like a puree of mashed potato, not mashed, with roasted chicken, asparagus or broccoli that's been charred, sliced charred, lemon juice, salt, pepper. But
You
if
make it sound so easy.
No, it is, because if you're taking me and I did this, that's why it's so easy for me to answer. I did way back when Ethan Zahn and Jenna Maresca, you probably don't remember them, but he was a football player. She was a very famous.
They were on Survivor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
He put me on a desert island with them, with nothing. And I had to cook. That was a dinner impossible. I had to fish, make stuff up on the fly. So for me, it's surroundings, equipment. What can I forage? What can I build? What can I have a very creative mind. With every question you have, I have to analyze it before I answer it. But it's really easy, that one.
Fair enough. Okay, so tomorrow is Valentine's Day. 13 years ago, I was dating my now wife, and I made her a chicken breast that I cut into a heart shape and made a spicy strawberry sauce. Now, I will tell you that my kids make fun of me to this day for that. So
you're really classy, you are.
I know. So what dish should I make tomorrow that will ensure that she'll stick around for another 13 years?
Well, do me a favor, Chris. Stay away from strawberry, anything fruity with chicken, right? I know a lot of people like that. I hate it. I think it's like deplorable. If I'm you, I take a head of broccoli, I slice it through like it's steaks, salt, pepper, oil, roast it so it's charred. Then I take a chicken breast, open it up, pound it, salt, pepper, flour, sear it really quick, take it out the pan once you've done it both sides, throw in lemon juice, little chicken stock, and then let it reduce, add a little butter, chop parsley over the top of the chicken, put the chicken back in, warm it up, then put it right over that steak. She will love you forever.
Okay, there we go.
Again, you make it sound so easy.
Yeah, you've just now justified that my kids can continue to make fun of me now for the next.
They can. They get my blessing because I'm not a big lover of number one, heart-shaped chicken, although that was very creative. Give it that piece.
Points for that. Yeah.
You can just see the disdain on his face. You can just see it on his face. It's so great.
You'll never see me do dishes with fruit and meat. It's alien to me.
Fair enough. Okay, well, we're going to give you our last segment, and this is kind of in the spirit of what you do as far as giving back and so on. At one time on this pod, we had a guest named Steph Copley who jokingly told us me and my host to shut the F up because she couldn't get her point in. It was so funny that we decided to make it a segment, and we've decided to invite people to donate to the Young Women's Resource Center, which is a charity that's near and dear to Steph Copley's heart. So I'm going to play this ad. We're going to encourage people to donate to the Young Women's Resource Center. And then when we come back, Chef, Dave and I are not allowed to say anything where you have to STF you, and you have carte blanche and can say whatever you want.
Got it.
Hey everybody, it's Steph Copley, the woman behind the STFU segment on the Old Man Strength podcast. When I told the guys I wanted to sponsor this segment, they recommended that I make a charitable donation instead, so that's what I did. I chose the Young Women's Resource Center in Des Moines, Iowa. They're a nonprofit that supports, educates, and advocates for girls and young women ages 10 to 24. Their whole goal is to make sure that these young women become strong, self-confident, and successful. And if you know me at all, you know that aligns with my goals as well. If you're interested and would like to donate, check them out at ywrc.org and donate today. And remember, don't forget to STFU and listen every once in a while. Thanks.
Oh, I love that, what she just said. Please go ahead and do that. But I would say this, a couple of things. Number one, it doesn't cost money to help somebody. It means opening a car door, helping somebody across the road. Listening can save a life. And we've all gone through a supermarket where you see this food go through the cash register. If you see that and you can afford to pay for it, please do so. It may be for a child that's not being fed. If everyone did something for somebody they don't know every day instead of somebody they do, our world would be a completely different place. I also want you to check out the robertirvinefoundation.org. But make sure you have a toilet roll or a box of tissues with you, because there's some really very sad but joyous videos on there. We help men and women that wear the cloth of our nation, and also our first responders. If you realize that 1 in 4 of our active duty military men and women that are active duty today are food insecure, it's horrific in the United States of America. On the outside world, veterans and regular families, 1 in 6 are food insecure. You can also check out heritagegear.com, where we've got some bags. If you buy a bag, half of that money goes to Robert Irvine Foundation to buy food for those that are insecure. So check out robertirvinefoundation.org. Take care of each other, love each other, and help each other out. That's all I got to say, guys. The rest is up to you. You can speak now.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You have the final word.
That's right. Chef, thank you so much. We can't thank you enough for giving us your time and for coming on this small little podcast. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Stay safe,
Chef. Thanks.
Okay, thanks everybody for tuning in. We hope that you stick around for other episodes and check out the rest of our pods in the Three Beards Media Network. And with that, we are out of here.